What's up everybody, Tiffany Outdoors here. Today I want to show you something. I want to do something a little bit different in here. There's the hawk. Before there was a Tiffany Outdoors, there was Tiffany the farmer.
On a U-turn when possible.
No, we're not U-turning.
Hi. Hi, what are you doing? Hi, Boo. What?
So, currently I have my plant tank that holds my plants. There's fish in there. You can see those guys swimming around right there. I have it temporarily down here on the floor. Now, having this tank on the floor makes it a little bit harder to access, a little bit harder to maintain, and to do water changes. And it's always been down here temporarily. But I also have this TV stand, this little small TV stand, and then I have all these buckets. I've got isopod substrate here, buckets for water changes here, and some terrarium and vivarium substrate in there. And I got various things up there for projects that I want to work on. And as I make vivariums, I have nowhere to put them. So guess what? I need to build a small rack. And that's what I'm going to do in this space here. And the rack is going to be about 58 inches tall and 24 inches wide. And how deep? I can't remember. 24 inches deep, maybe 18 inches, something. I have the wood. I have all the materials. I went and bought the wood. I went and bought the pipes. I'm going to be using pipe. And this will be my first time using pipe and shelving together. So this is going to be fun and interesting. Plus, Joe got me a new tool for Christmas. So I will be using that today. Very excited to use that. Alright, let's go outside and I'll show you all of the materials that we're going to need for this build. For this build with 4 shelves, you're going to need 3 pieces of this board. It's pine laminated pine. And here are the measurements. I also got a bag of painter's rags. I'll be using some boiled linseed oil. I got 2 cans of lacquer, 2 boxes of these Phillips head screws. I bought 2 cans of Rust-Oleum gloss black. Gonna need some painter's tape. And I've got 4 of these 1-inch flanges and 4 of the nipples. These are 1-inch nipples. I've got 12 of the 18-inch black pipe. These are 1/2 inch. I've got 30 of the 1/2 inch flanges. Y'all, I am not gonna lie, this build is expensive, very expensive if you get all these like I did. My suggestion is if you want to build this, you can buy your stuff a little bit at a time. Busted out my credit card for this one. So put everything on my credit card. But anyway, all right, let's get started. First thing I want to do is originally when I got the idea that I want to make this, I bought some stain. I bought some natural wood stain. I've decided I don't want to use that anymore. I'm going to go with the boiled linseed oil instead, and then cover it with several coats of lacquer on top. So first thing I want to do is go ahead and get that linseed oil on the wood. So let's go ahead and do that first. First thing I'm going to do is take a little small sanding block and knock down the corners on these. The corners have like sharp edges, saw edges and things. I want to just knock that down and just round it off ever so slightly. Just a couple of swipes and that's it. I don't want to take too much off, but I do want to make those edges look a little bit better. I'm going to be putting on the first layer of the linseed oil with a soft hair brush. And this oil is going to help protect this. And it's going to give it like a little amberish, yellowish hue to it. And I think I liked this color over the natural stain a lot better. This is just going to protect the wood from any kind of moisture and spills and things from the fish tank. I just want to protect this. And I wanted the natural color of the pine to come out. Alright, I'm going to finish this up and I'll come back to you. Look how beautiful that is. Oh, so pretty. So pretty. So while the wood is drying, I'm going to be taking the labels off of the pipes, wiping them down with rubbing alcohol, and getting them prepared for paint. First, I'm taking my knife to remove the label, which they have taped on there, and it's leaving a sticky, sticky residue. Let's try and make sure I get that and the tape off. Then I got a rag here. Douse it down with rubbing alcohol. Oh, and not only that, I'm unscrewing these thread protectors to just cover the top of the threads on each end. That way I get the whole thing cleaned and painted. These have a greasy residue. And y'all don't worry, because some of this stuff is going to come off. Some of the paint and coloring. See how black this rag is? It was white. Some of that's going to come off, and that's okay. We're going to paint it anyway. It's just to get the grease, oil, and that sticky residue from the label off of there. And then I'm taking it over to cardboard. Over here, and I'm spraying it, letting it dry for 15-20 minutes. Roll it, spray the other side. Easy peasy. Alright, I'm going to get all that done, and then I'll come back to you. So, I say you need painter's tape just in case your pipe does not come with a thread protector. And this one just so happens didn't have one, so just take some painter's tape and put it around your threads before you spray paint it. Now that my boards are dry, now it's time to cut them in half. Now you certainly can do this step first, but I wanted to do it last to see if it made any difference. So I'm going to go ahead and measure and cut my board. And I'm going to cut it in 2 feet. Now that I think about it, I probably should have cut these first, but I'm going to go ahead and keep on going. I have no choice. So now I'm going to take the boiled linseed oil and go along the cut edge, let that dry, and then we're going to put on our lacquer. I'm going to do the same thing with my other 2 pieces and then carry on. My shelf is going to go there, so there's my temporary tank. It's right there with my plants in it. That's the temporary location. So I'm going to build my shelf here. First thing I got to do is get rid of all of this or move it out of the way and move my painting there. And I got my other two paintings high up there, so maybe I can move that one right in there. We'll see. But first things first, I gotta move all that out of the way. Now that I have the area clear, I have my boards here. So I have 4 boards here, and there's 2 on my table that I'm going to glue and staple together. Get to that in a second. But I just want to point out, y'all, carrying on with my theme, it doesn't have to be pretty or perfect, because these certainly are not perfect. You can see lined up on that side. That side is not lined up at all. So, you know what? I just got to go with it. So I'm going to put the larger boards on the bottom, of course. Give myself a wider base, so I'm going to start there. Actually, not going to start there. I'm going to start with these 2 boards over here on my table. These 2 boards are going to be glued together, and I'm going to put some 18 gauge brad nails in there so that I don't have to wait for clamping and all of that. But this shelf here is going to be the one specifically for the fish tank. I want to make sure that this shelf is extra strong to hold up that tank and all of the water in it. With the water in that fish tank, 10 gallons, and it probably weighs, with all the water in there, close to 90 pounds or more with the water full. And I want to make absolutely certain that that can handle that. So I'm going to glue these 2 together, and I went through all of my boards, and these 2 fit together the best lengthwise, because they're all off. But anyway, let me get this going. I'm going to be using Type-On 2 and 1-inch brad nails. When I glue this up, I'm not going to go all the way to the edge because I don't want any squeeze out. The brad nails will be able to hold that in. Alright, let's make a mess now. Get these lined up as best as I can. Like I said, doesn't have to be pretty or perfect. I'm just going to line them up as best as I can. Sometimes you just got to work with what you got. to keep this together. And this would be my top portion, so that's that. And I just want to rub my hand across it, make sure I don't have any that went all the way through, and I don't. Okay, moving on to the next step. My first step is to put on the flanges. This is going to be my bottom board. So the side that's lacquered is facing down. And on the bottom, I'm going to be putting my 1-inch flanges. And I'm going to be using these number 10 3/4 inch screws. So what I'm doing is I have a 3/32 drill bit. And I measured it. I didn't want it to go the whole length of the screw, but most of the way. That way the wood has something to grip onto. So that way the screw has more of the wood to grip onto. And I put a piece of tape around here so I know when to stop drilling. And then I'm using my Christmas present that I got from Joe. Check that out, y'all. Got me a nice impact driver. Very nice. And it's super quiet. Very quiet. So I'm using this to screw in the screws most of the way. And then to put it in the rest of the way, I'm using this ratcheting Phillips head. That way I don't over torque these screws. I don't want it to pop out through the other side, because they're just long enough that they could do that if I drove it all the way with this. So doing it very slowly. And the shavings that are in that hole, I'm leaving them in there. It'll help the screw grip also without making the wood split. Look how smooth that was in there. And then taking this ratcheting and just going just tight. You don't want to over tighten it. If you over tighten this, it's a possibility that this could go all the way through to the other side of the wood. We don't want that. There we go. And just to double check, I'm taking my hand and running it along which is actually the top side of the wood, to make sure it didn't go all the way through. If it did, then I just need to back that screw out some. Alright, I'm going to put in the other 2 flanges, and then I'll come back to you. Our next step is to take our 1-inch nipples, and we're going to screw these in. And we're also, and I went over all the materials that we're going to need. I actually meant to say we need 8 of these 1-inch flanges. So I'm going to go ahead and screw in the nipples. And I'm wearing gloves because sometimes these have some metal shavings on them, and it makes it a little bit easier for me to put them in and get them snug down a little bit. And then we'll take our second flange, put it on upside down, like so. And then this is the one that we can use to level the shelf with. Okay? Put these in. Snuggle them down. And if you want a nice secure fit on these, you can also use some thread lock. I'm not going to be using that, but if you want it to be more secure, of course you can do that. these to be nice and stuck down. And then I'm gonna put these on. And if you further want this shelf to be secure, you can take these and screw them into your floor. And I won't be doing that at this point in time. Maybe we'll see when I get it, when I get the shelf all put together and see how stable it is. If I find it to be unstable, then yeah, I'm gonna screw these down to my floor. All right, I've tested my location in here. I opened the door a couple times to make sure it wasn't in the way or the door was gonna hit the shelf. I've got plenty of room. Matter of fact, I might move it to the right more. There we go. Give me a little bit of space to get back there to the plug. Now, take a level it out. Alright, so it's off. Alright. It's got a wobble to it. Once you get your first shelf leveled this way, then you want to take your level and put it that way and check the level that way also. And we're good that way. And when I push on it, wiggle it, see if it'll wiggle or wobble, and it's not. So this first shelf is level. Now to move on to the next one. Now that we have our first layer done, we're going to switch back over to the 1/2 inch flanges and the 1/2 inch tubing. So I'm going to pick this up, put it on my table, and put in the next level. The trick to this is now that we have a flange underneath this, we need to make sure that the holes are offset from the flange underneath it. Now that that is figured out, I'll just go on like I did with the first level, is drill my pilot hole. And put in my 4 screws. Alright, and then tighten them up with my ratcheting screwdriver. Alright, on to our very first hole. And simply screw this in. Y'all, I was kind of concerned about these poles because they still had a tacky feel to them, like the paint was still kind of wet on them. And after they've been sitting for a few days, they're all completely tacky free. They're not sticky at all anymore. Then on top of that, put on your next flange. from there, you're going to put on your shelf. And level. Ha! Wow. Perfect. I've done something perfect. No, it's not perfect. I accidentally got it right on the first try. Alright, from there I'm going to move the shelf around and get it squared up so that the flange is not sticking out past the board. Oh, look at this, y'all. Gotta level it this way too. But look. See? It's not perfect. It's close enough so the board does wobble, but when I put the screws in, it'll tighten it down and flatten it out, and it will still be mostly level. So, and I'm okay with that. It's a little bit off, but would I be Tiffany Outdoors if I did something perfect? No, I wouldn't be. After I've got in at least 2 poles, I flip this thing upside down to make that easier to get to. Alright y'all, I'm going to finish the last 2 levels. It's the same thing I did with the first 2 boards. I'm not going to bore you with repeating it over and over. I'll come back to you after I get it all together. I'm having a little bit of trouble with this shelf because when I bought the piece of wood, I didn't check it to make sure it wasn't bowed. I make sure it was pretty much straight, but with it being on the shelf and they were all flat pieces together, so the weight of the boards above it were flattening it down, and after I cut it in half, boom, there was a bow. So I'm having a little bit of trouble with this shelf, but it's pretty close, so I'm just gonna go with it, screw it down, and keep on moving. Y'all, I am so happy with the way this turned out. It is not by any means perfect. There are a lot of cuts that are off. There's things that are not perfect, not straight, not in order, but You can't tell it from far away, can you? There's a lot of things wrong with it, but each shelf is level. It's level going this way and this way. So, and I got it done. Very, very happy with the way this turned out. Very happy. My goodness. All right. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.